actually use as much as we should. So yeah, maybe that's definitely something we can look at. But anyway, that's a topic for another time. We'll definitely do that at some other point. We are live, everybody. Welcome to Brainfood Live on Air, bringing it to you every Friday, no fail. It is episode 256. Would you believe it? 256 webinars or 256 live streams, however which way you want to play it. I do believe there's no other recruitment organization, entity, person that has done this type of consistency for these years. So thank you everyone for sticking with us all of this time. It's been a great journey, and long may it continue. So one of my favorite things to do. So fantastic to see everyone here. As ever, let's do some sound checks. I want to make sure everyone can hear me okay on Crowdcast. So the folks who are watching this on Crowdcast, just let me know in the chat whether the audio and visual is okay. We should be live streaming this. I really hope we're live streaming this in multiple places. So it should be in my LinkedIn. I think, Chloe, you're also live streaming this. Jeremy is live streaming this. And also Rob Walker at the very least. So if you're watching in all of those places, let me know whether you can hear and see us okay. Let us know in the comments there. I'll just do a quick check on my secondary device, which is my mobile.
We can
and just
see
make sure I can see it. Am I live? Oh, you got multi-screen, yeah.
Yeah.
So you're more pro than I am. I'm literally, I have to use this. You know, it's like that's all I got.
Multiple screens.
This laptop is on a shoebox. People wouldn't believe me. It's like, yeah, it's just lo-fi stuff, man. You know, I need to really update my shit. Anyway, we're all live. We're doing good. So all well and good. Welcome to Chloe Morrison. Chloe, great to see you back on the show. Thanks for being co-host with us today. Why don't you quickly introduce yourself for the folks who don't know you? Who are you? What it is you do?
Hey everybody, I'm Chloe Morrison. I'm a program manager for recruiting operations at Datadog. I'm based in Ireland, but as you can hear, I'm French.
Yes, and you're a mystery French person, because Chloe Morrison doesn't sound like a French name to me. And people often get surprised when they hear your dulcet tones. But wonderful to have you on the show, Chloe, and it's going to be great to have you discuss the newsletter as well as contribute to this conversation, because I think the recruiting ops side very closely linked to dashboards and what have you. Anyway, before we continue, we have to do a quick sponsor message, because without our sponsors, we cannot do Brainfood Live on Air. This week, I'm delighted to say it's, I think, our first sponsor of one of our old favorites of Brainfood. It's Greenhouse, folks. Everyone's favorite ATS. They are sponsoring this week's show. Wonderful to see them on. They've been a great supporter of Brainfood throughout the years. I think they've sponsored Brainfood Live almost every year for the last 3 years, and they're going to keep doing that. So amazing to have their support. I had a good fortune of catching up with their team in Amsterdam a week ago. It was great to see Dina and Circa and all those kind of cool cats. So yeah, wonderful to see them up and around and supporting the community. If you are, of course, looking for an ATS, enterprise ready, has all the features, has all the functions, has all the support, has all the AI about to come out, as I understand, some really exciting features going to roll out at you. Do check out Greenhouse. There is a link here which I'm going to share into the chat. And that basically gives you the opportunity to, yes, Lee, cool cats. There's you can go and explore the product. It's a really good way to just navigate, or you can just book a demo straight away and speak to one of the team. So thank you, Greenhouse. They're a great ATS. Okay, Chloe, let's get on with the show. We got to review the newsletter. So did you read the newsletter last week? And if so, what was interesting for you?
I did. I have notes.
Don't go overboard, Chloe, but tell me.
So there were 4 articles that I really read through. One that really annoyed me and 3 that I really liked. But sometimes the annoying ones are the ones that are interesting. No? I know.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the one I got laid off and I'm relieved, that's the one that annoyed me. I'm like, good for you, mate. You're relieved. There's no shame. But in the tips on how to prepare, it requires money and skills that not everybody has. So I was like, that's not very helpful.
What did he say that kind of what were the tips that cost money? Because I thought this guy actually gave some just a bit of context. This is a senior tech exec, so he did have money. He obviously had earned a decent amount. He got laid off. That was psychologically difficult. And then he just rolled out a lot of tips. And you're saying some of these tips are not accessible to other people because it takes cash, right?
Yeah, and some of them, like, it was like basically make more money, so have multiple streams of income, which it was doing by doing courses, writing books, and selling them. And that requires a network to have that. And that's not accessible to everyone. And it was going on about how he had bought life insurance and got an accountant. And there again, that costs money. And if you've just been laid off, you may not have that.
Yeah,
And I thought
very
I was like a
interesting.
bit out of touch for a lot of people who were laid off last year and this
Yeah,
year.
I think that's absolutely fair criticism. This it's worth reading in any case. I think there's lots of things you can learn from it. But at the same time, it was very much from that person's perspective, and it was coming from a position of a lot of, let's say, he had a big runway,
Yeah.
and that makes all the difference when the pressure is not so immediate. We know what the problem is when you get laid off, and it's like you're 4 weeks. Let's say you're on a visa and it's tied to your employer and you've got 4 weeks to get a job. That's happened to people in our community. They've had to leave the United States to do that. Or health insurance associated. Again, we're using US terms here. But yeah, not everyone has the privilege of doing this. But one thing I did like about this is that he was prepared to talk about the layoff period. And I think that's really helpful and healthy because I think it's the natural thing to kind of just hold it back and not talk to anybody about it, maybe even feel some shame. But I don't think we have to eliminate that, normalize the fact that, what, people are going to get made redundant. We literally got nothing to do with performance often.
Yeah.
So go
So
and talk about it and let people know.
if you've managed to 2024 without being made redundant once, good for you, because that's quite rare. I was made redundant twice in my career. And
Yeah, yeah.
that's probably why it hits home that you don't necessarily have all of that available to you, but especially for recruiters, because like as a recruiter, you can write books, you can make courses. Who's going to buy them when most of our industry has been decimated by layoffs in the last 2 years?
Yeah. I think very tough and maybe context specific because he was not a recruiter. So I think he was
Yeah.
some maybe engineering manager or something. So there's a different marketplace. But
So that was
anyway,
interesting coming from there.
yeah, Twitter thread is there. So go check it out, folks, if you want to dive into that. Okay, Chloe, what about things that didn't upset you from the
That didn't
newsletter?
upset
Like,
me.
can you give us any? Yeah.
Yeah, our recruiters better than a coin flip at judging resumes. So that was a really interesting one because they were researched based on you know how recruiters are reviewing resumes, how good they are, what they're really looking for. Would an AI actually do better? And the summary of it was that spending 15 seconds extra on reviewing a resume would increase your accuracy by 34% on whether the person is going to pass through the loop of interviews. And I thought that was amazing. I don't know exactly if that was tech recruiting, general recruiting, or anything specific, but that was a really interesting article on the data on that and something that you can implement on your day-to-day basis. Because 15 seconds more, you can definitely allow that at least for a trial period and see if that works better for you.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting takeaway. But this post, by the way, got a lot of people quite excited in the negative. A lot of people upset by it as well, saying, "Yeah, this is BS. It's all very tech specific and all this." Look, I get all that, but this person can only do experiment with the data that she has. She can't sort of cover everything. But yeah, the I took the same big takeaway as you, which was if you spend a bit longer reviewing the CV or the resume, actually you make better judgments. And by the way in which she could find this out is because basically she already knew the individuals had progressed on interview. So she used legacy data on the resume that the new recruiters who were in the test sample didn't know whether they'd progressed or not, but she did. And then she just presented those CVs to a bunch of recruiters to say, okay, assess these and you tell me who goes through. And one of them was, okay, now spend longer to do so, extend the amount of time you're reading the resume, and of course, performance in terms of assessing goes up. So really, really interesting. We're doing 2 short scans when we're doing assessments, and we're just doing quick pattern matching, quite normal. We want to go fast, of course, but yeah, maybe we need to go a bit slower. So yeah, just share it in the chat stream there. Go check it out. Okay, what else was interesting, Chloe?
It's time to reinvent TA. So that was the one of the articles as well, which was a nice follow-up onto that. But basically, the article states that TA is 80% tactical and 20% strategic, and we need to become more of talent advisors. And I really liked it. It resonated from a training that I did with John Blasilica years ago, which is basically, calling intake meetings. Would you like fries with that? And it is true that TA is not represented at board meetings at C level. We get a C HR officer, but we don't get a C recruiting officer. Or at least I haven't met any. If you are there, please reach out. I'd love to talk to you.
Yeah, do you make yourself? I mean, this is Josh Burson's call to action. I don't think anybody disagrees with it either. But it is interesting to say, why is this moment different, and is it any different from what it was before? I personally think it is, simply because the kind of level of growth that we've had over the last 15 years or so probably will not return in the same way. And if recruiters are entirely focused on external hiring, that's talent acquisition, and the clue is in the name, then it doesn't make too much sense to be too closely wedded to that. We need to think internal mobility. We need to think talent ops, like you're doing, Chloe. We need to think interview intelligence. We need to do recruitment analytics, which is what we're going to go into in a moment. So all of those things are important for recruiters. We need to expand scope, and it might mean we need to reinvent how we describe ourselves and even what we call ourselves. But read Josh Burson's post there. Burson, of course, if you're not following him, you should. I know a lot of people, again, have opinion, but he's a guy you should know what he's saying. Okay, give us one more, Chloe, before we get into this.
One last was the gender pay gap report.
Yes, this is from Levels FYI, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So that was a very interesting report. I was a bit sad that only 16% of the respondents were women. So it's actually hard to, make a proper report onto that. And we can see that one thing that shocked me is that basically the wage gap has not reduced at all in the last 4 years. And that's sad.
It is. However, I was actually I took more positivity from this than you, because it looks like the gaps were closing at different levels of the company.
Yeah,
So it wasn't the
level.
case. Yeah, junior and mid. It was only at the top that it started to split somewhat. So I think that why this is positive is that it gives us a clue that if you have a leveling structure, it actually does a great deal in terms of equaling the pay gap, because it means that hiring managers are not able to, idiosyncratically set salary and pay based on you typically based on like one-to-one negotiations back in the day. It's actually fixed in terms of, okay, here's the range. So again, this helps. I think moving on to salary transparency, help all those things. I think it's incremental progress. So don't lose hope, Chloe. I saw optimism on that. Jeremy, I will invite you on. By the way, this is how the way Brainfood works. We're going to have a quick review of the show, and then we're going to go and invite the guests on. So let's go ahead and do that now. Recruitment analytics, how to build a recruitment analytics dashboard. Chloe, before we bring our guests on, what are your thoughts on this? Do you have any, did you ever build a dashboard? Did someone do that for you? Why is it important? Like, what are the lessons that you've learned?
So analytics is massively important. I started in ops by pulling a lot of Excel spreadsheets and reports. In my current job, I'm blessed. We have a team of amazing people who do that for us. It's in a self-service model, which is great. So I can just play around with Metabase, but they create all of the fancy dashboards.
Yeah, so that's very lucky that they've done the amazing dashboards for you. From how you've can you compare what makes your current setup better than perhaps some of the other dashboards that you've seen? Like, is there any common themes that we could look at and think, what, this is what makes this dashboard particularly useful compared to some of the stuff we've had before?
everything that we have is custom made, so for the need of the TA leaders and the ICs in general, whereas everywhere before was very reactive and okay, we need this analysis, so let's pull that. We need capacity planning for the year. How many people do we need to hire in order to hit our targets? And then you do the analysis like that. Whereas now we have like a set of dashboards for that you can use to pilot your day-to-day activity as a recruiter, as a manager managing teams. You can use that as well. And I really like that it's self-service because you can have the data anytime that you need them. So it makes you able to quickly analyze where you're going wrong or if there's something that's going wrong and figure it out and move on from that.
I think that's the key, isn't it? Sometimes the tool can be overwhelming, and if you're wrestling with the tool, then actually that becomes a job, and that's not what you want. You want immediacy, and you want relevancy, and if you're trying to invent it when you need it, it's already too late. I actually had a conversation earlier, not today, but actually yesterday, with a friend of mine he was saying, "Yeah, well, what do I do now? I'm just pulling together stats," and I was thinking, yeah, it's going to take you, it's classic, it's going to take you all morning at least. And it will be, very scrappy, very ugly. And generally speaking, you put
Yeah.
up time when that should be like immediate at your fingertips.
Who wants to be pulling 5 reports, Google how to do a VLOOKUP between 2 phone screens?
Yeah, already I can tell you I don't want to do that. All right. We're going to bring Michael Talarek on. In fact, I want to bring everyone on. I think in the initial email I said I want to try and bring people on sequentially, but I don't see why we should do that. Let's just get everyone on at the same time. We just talk through this. So Michael, you should have just got an invite. Say yes to that. Jeremy, I'm going to invite you as well. You're very insistent on coming on, so here you go. Jeremy's like blowing up my phone, so how do I get on? Okay, it's happening. And we have Luke as well, so I'm sure Luke is here. Where is Luke? There he is. There he is, Michael. Good to see you, sir.
Hello.
How are you doing, Michael? Great to see you, and great to see Jeremy as well. Okay, let's do some quick intros while Luke is also getting on. Michael, can you quickly introduce yourself? Who are you? What it is you do?
Sure. Welcome, everybody. My name is Michael Talarek. As you've mentioned, I work for Zalando as the senior analyst, and I've been building different dashboards for the last couple of years. So I guess this is the right topic to tackle finally.
I've been waiting to get you on the show, Michael. I've been waiting to get you on the show. If you're not following Michael on LinkedIn, by the way, you should, because he's what I would call an infrequent poster on LinkedIn. But when he does post, he posts like some remarkable information. Some of the best blog posts I've read, really deep dives on how to think about analytics and what have you. Really, really good. So fantastic to get you on the show here. Jeremy, wonderful to see you as usual. Jeremy, quickly introduce yourself. Who are you? What it is you do?
So thanks, Hank. So I have 20 years in TA. The last 10 have been in TA data and HR analytics. I'm just concluding a contract at Citi, where we've designed and rolled out Citi's first global talent acquisition analytics platform, covering about 60 to 90,000 hires a year, 5 million applicants, 240 countries. So yeah, it's been an interesting project.
I was going to say a massive project, and fantastic that you've got time to join us for this, Jeremy. And of course, you are going to be available for work in a couple of months if you're coming to the term of your contract. So if anybody's watching this and potentially looking for expertise, Jeremy might actually be able to help you. Okay, we've got Luke Eaton here as well. Luke, wonderful to see you. Can you quickly introduce yourself, who you, what it is you do?
Sure. Hello, everyone. I'm Luke, and my role is to embed into hyper-growing tech companies, set up the tool systems, processes needed to scale, make sure people aren't a blocker to investment milestones. And a lot of that starts with good systems, good governance, and best practices. So I'm essentially like Mary Poppins, but instead of stuffy British families, it's dysfunctional tech companies. That's kind of my role.
You're the least convincing Mary Poppins that I can see, at least based on your visual appearance, Luke. But someone give him a Mary Poppins makeover. That'd be quite funny to see. Okay, let's get on with this. How to set up a recruitment analyst dashboard. We've got actually loads of people signed up to this. We've got 600 people kind of like registered already. We've got hundreds of people watching it in different places. The interest level is high. The reason why I think that is probably because a lot of people want to do this, but they don't know how to do it. So let's tackle that to begin with. What do you think is stopping recruitment functions from actually being effective in setting recruitment analytics dashboards? Anybody want to pop in with the first answer to that?
I mean, I can jump into that. I think the key thing for me is carrying out the business requirement process correctly, engaging with the senior stakeholders. What is the business's strategic goals? What is TA's strategic goals? What dashboards and measures do we have that can measure the health and the success of the business's strategy, i.e. what value is TA delivering to the business? What value, and then how are we delivering against our own measures? And also key for me is understanding how is the leadership being measured? So your head of recruitment, your HRD, what are their measures? If you align your data to that, then you can start to answer the question. I think the challenge is a lot of people get very excited with data. They get very excited by the fact that they can produce a dashboard, and they just start producing data and dashboards and throwing it around. And everyone's like, don't understand it. So I think you've got data business requirements. But secondly, and I think this is probably the key thing for me that I've learned over the years, you have to understand the data literacy of your audience. If you give a leader data and they are not totally comfortable with that data, and they're nervous that if they are questioned about it, they don't know the answers, they will not use that data. So what I often see is all this wonderful stuff where you see a visualization that would be great for Google DeepMind or Apple. However, you roll it out in an organization like City and people just don't understand it. So yeah, nothing wrong with a really nice, simple bar chart, guys, or line graph. Keep it simple, all right. Build it.
Let's start with that. So I think that was the first bit of innovation that I didn't think about. So maybe the first thing you got to do is analyze the data literacy of the business stakeholders before you charge off building anything. Because I think it is the case that, you've got nice software out there. People are recommending, Power BI. They're saying, use this, that, and the other tool. And it's quite nice to, end up, translating numbers into pictures. These days they all animate and it's all very cool. And it feels like that's work. But actually, if it's not landing with the audience, they actually intimidated by it, then it's not going to fly. How do we find out what the data literacy is? Because they're not going to just tell us, are they? How do we establish the baseline, or do we just assume they don't know and go with the simplest thing? Is that the fastest way to get there? Anybody?
I'll jump in again if no one else wants to. I find you workshop it. You need a model, i.e. this is what we're looking to achieve in terms of the workshop you take them through. And then you'll very quickly understand by asking, can I see what you use now? Asking the questions, then questioning why. Why do you want that? What real value is that going to? An old friend of mine used to use these so what. If after 3 so what someone's still got an answer, then great, let's use it. But yeah, don't assume that a financial director is comfortable with a load of dashboards, especially if they don't understand the data.
Scary if true. But I tell you what are you using now? Maybe the best start, right? So rather than doing things in a vacuum, first start. How do you set a recruitment dashboard? Is actually set it up. Go and ask the business what are they using right now to track recruitment metrics. They may say nothing, in which case, great, greenfield site, you can go ahead and do something. But they may say, yeah, we're looking at this, we were looking at that. There's bits and bobs coming out. Great. That's when you can start pulling that together. So maybe you want to audit what's happening already in terms of tracking, and then start seeing, right, what are the gaps from this? What are the flaws in using this tool? Can we improve it? Something like that. Michael, you got any thoughts on this? Because you're a specialist in function, right? So you've got a unique role, as I understand it, within Zalando. So you're working in a recruitment team. But actually, you're actually one of those people that Chloe mentioned, someone who's specializing in looking at the data flows and then building tooling to help and optimize other recruiters. Does any of this kind of resonate to you in terms of how that journey starts? I mean, can you tell us a little bit how you built out your function at Zalando?
Pretty much, Hank, this resonates well with me. So I would like to highlight the aspect that I've been working as a recruiter before. So I got more domain experience, and I have been learning more towards like the analytics while on the job. So one of the things I've observed is that quite often we are struggling with data because of the tool we are using, whether it's the ATS or some other tool that is put on top, that every person who is joining the company, the team to lead, they have their own vision, what they would like to measure, what they would like to look at. And sometimes the team has to follow and to learn what kind of metrics are important for them. So the problem here sometimes is that you are speaking different languages, you have different understanding of what the metrics are about. You don't really align on that, and then it might be too late, because once the team is getting already quite accustomed to using the new methodology, the person leading might leave, and then another one is joining and bringing their own favorite tools. So here I would rather emphasize more the input coming from the front lines, what is happening there, and to combine that with what the business needs, what are the current situation on the market, whether you would like to focus more on particular market or location or particular roles to fill in. So from the recruitment analytics point, you might measure anything, and as you've mentioned in the chat, you have plenty of data, but then it's more about actionable insights. What can you do out of that? And with this abundance of different charts, numbers, tables, actually I realize people prefer to have table to do the calculation on their own. Still, you need to know what to do with this, because just having the numbers is not enough. You need to have this kind of idea about how to connect the reality with the numbers. So the map is not the terrain.
Yeah, some really interesting points to be made there. Firstly, like leadership turnover is significant, right? So, especially as we've seen it over the last 18 months, 2 years or so, it's been a really tough market for all of us in recruiting, up and down, particularly a long period of down in the tech side. Okay, so you got a problem if you got a leader that's sort of made all the decisions, said we're using this tool, because that's almost like I can't sort of help but go with a football management analogy here, where you give the manager the budget, he goes and spends everything, and then you know what, he gets sacked, and then you got a new guy coming in, he hates all the players again. So actually, you don't need to have that. You need to have some sort of separation between who buys the tool and who makes that decision. It shouldn't necessarily be with it should be with the specialist function, I guess. But that may be something that may be quite difficult to negotiate and handle. Actually, Luke, let's bring you in on this. I mean, is that something you've encountered? Like tool selection in this. Some hiring manager or leader might be particularly passionate or embedded or wedded to a certain tool, but you're thinking, for the business needs to make that decision, not necessarily an individual who could be is much more transient than the business.
Yeah, this might end up being a boring call because I just agree with everyone so much. I was hoping we'd disagree a little bit more, but I very much agree with what Michael and Jeremy have said. So what I would say is that we because there are so many tools and tools make things easy, they can often be seen across the recruitment teams and the wider business as magic bullets. We're going to get the new tool, it's going to fix X problem, but all it's going to do is take poor quality data and make it look nice. Now that's just going to take arbitrary information and make it a nice, put it in a dashboard. That's not valuable at all. Even if you were bootstrapping a solution really, really simple for yourself or for a small business, 80% of the labor is rationalizing the data. And then lastly, let's say I had $1 million and I paid Michael and Jeremy and just cut them a check to build me the best system in the world. If the governance about how data is entered and the workflows about how data is entered over time is not there or poor, then it does not matter. It will not give you what you need. And that's something that I see time and time again. And I feel if there's a lot of recruiters and recruitment leaders on the calls TA tech is exploding right now. There's going to be more and more choice, not just in data and analytics, but all TA and HR tech. And we have to sort of say, slow down. What's the governance and roles and responsibilities, and what's the workflows? And particularly if we're looking at data, what's the top of the funnel data for maybe a business during a scaling phase? What, 250,000 outreach? You know, maybe a few tens of thousands of screens, thousands of offers. That's enormous quantities of data. And if after a year we look back and go, why can't we pull time to hire? Why can't we find time in stage? Oh, it's because we've been leaving candidates in stages and we've not been writing down the best practices around how we actually engage with the tool. So I always have to be a bit of a party pooper and say, let's nail the governance first, and then move to the systems and the technologies, if that resonates with anyone.
Yeah, that's a massive party pooper, mate. Sorry, Chloe, go ahead.
I actually have a practical question on that. Luke, would you be able to maybe tell us a little bit more about what sort of data you collect and how you, I suppose, train people on how to use it? Would you have practical tips for the people who are here today who are looking for very practical, actionable stuff?
Yeah, I'll try to keep it as short as possible, but I can certainly give you that. Well, firstly, I feel like I'm a bit out of my league compared to the three of you. I kind of feel like I'm going up to Stephen Fry and saying, I've read The Very Hungry Caterpillar. I'm a little bit out of your league. But in terms of practical tips, from a recruiter, from a recruitment point of view, it's really important that you're measuring and you're able to visualize the qualitative metrics of your output. So how good is the thing we created, hires? And also the quantitative metrics of your work. So how much effort did it take us to get to that outcome? So if you can measure those two things, even if it's a spreadsheet or if it's the most automated system in the world, you're going to be in a position where you can make a lot of valuable inferences and forecasts. So a lot of what we do is lagging indicators, so we can make forecasts with good data as well. And I would also recommend learning a little bit about more sophisticated concepts from outside of recruitment, like lean and the theory of constraints, ways of reducing the impact of bottlenecks in a process. If you have volume and conversion, which is a function of volume, and capacity, if you have those three kind of cardinal axes, you can pretty much get a very, very sophisticated model of any process. And then from there, you can set up a cycle of continuous improvement in the business. So by that, I mean, maybe every quarter you have a retrospective, you can look individually at a specific conversion and get super granular. What could we improve by 4% this coming quarter? And then what are we going to commit to do this quarter? Then measure that, see how well you did, and then come up with a new thing to improve and just take advantage of marginal gains. And then lastly, something else Jeremy mentioned around data literacy. A lot of the data literacy, usually the person with the least data literacy, in my opinion, is the recruiters. If you're speaking to technical leaders, they understand bottlenecks, they understand throughput, they can calculate it for you. They've just never thought that us recruiters have the strategic mindset and sophistication to talk in those ways. They don't know that we can do recruitment the way they do software development and software release and process improvements. So I'd recommend bringing the hiring managers into the conversation using their language. And a good way to embed a new tool or dashboards or report is just by making it a core part of how you communicate with hiring managers. You've probably got a Friday decisioning session where you're going to go over candidates and decisions and all of those things. If not, definitely should just do that, please, for me. But why not use that data in every single Friday? It could be snapshots, it could be a live, it could be a screen share to view what where these candidates are. So they're being conditioned to use it all of the time. You only really know how to use your phone because you play with it, right? You didn't have to read a book. You're just constantly playing with it, and then you know your phone inside out. Make your data the same way. So just get it in there. Make it so it's the tool that you use to communicate on a weekly basis, rather than saying, we've got this cool dashboard, it took us a quarter to make, here's a link, let me know what you think. And then they just don't touch it, because why would they? They're software engineers, they're finance directors. It's not their priority. I feel like I've been talking for about 6 years, so I'll stop there. Was that low level enough, or was there any?
No, that was good. That was very interesting. I have a follow-up question.
Go ahead, Chloe.
So you did mention capacity. So not necessarily Luke, but any one of you. But how do you make like a prediction for the capacity of your team when you have people who recruit for leadership, people who recruit for SDR, so entry-level roles, and everything in between? Do you get like a single point for everyone? Do you get more granular? There's a lot of chat with the viewer at the moment who are very, very in depth with that. So I'd love to know a bit more about how you decide what data you're going to put on.
So I can jump in there. So capacity, great, really, really topical. I think it depends on the process that the organization you're in follows. Most organizations will break their recruitment process down into a number of steps, and then you can start to look at what percentage of time to fill a requisition sits in each of those steps. And then from then you can start to build and understand how many recs a recruiter can have based upon the level and location. And using historic data, you can understand how long it might take to take a senior hire versus a junior hire in different locations. And then from that, you can sort of create a matrix. For me, I think that's a great point, Claire. It's about partnering with the business, partnering with the recruiters. If you build a system in isolation and give it to someone, they're like, great, yet another bloody system. If you bring everyone together and you get them involved, Luke, what do you need? Michael, what do you need? Chloe, what do you need? Hung, what do you need? Right, we've done this. Right, guys, what do you think of this? Any changes? They get involved in that process. You might not be involving them that deeply, but you are still asking their opinion. And then it becomes we, as in we, the team, have produced this. And if you bring in finance, so for me, a recruitment platform, TA platform starts with a financial forecast and it ends with the employee success. So if you bring everyone from that spectrum into that conversation, it becomes we have developed this. But underlying that, the key thing for me is a defined data taxonomy. So for example, the example I always use, days, are we using calendar days or are we using business days? Because people assume. What is their definition of a requisition? What is their definition of a candidate? Is a candidate an applicant? Is an applicant the same as an application? You've really got to go down into that. And then the final thing where I see a lot of organizations fall over is testing. You need to test. And when I say test, I mean test. And when you finish testing, retest it. And then once you've retested it, retest it again. Because if you release any platform that does not have 100% data integrity, then it's not accurate. Doesn't matter. So yeah, that would be my my penny's worth.
All right, lots in there. A quick interruption, Chloe. Folks, having heard all this, my mind is like steaming already. I don't know whether you can see steam coming out of my head because it's brain is working on overdrive. But there's a poll on the right-hand side of your screen. Go ahead and click on the poll. I want to get your views as to where you feel your current level is with regards to recruitment analytics. Don't be intimidated by what you've heard on screen. These are experts in the industry, but I just want you to want us to get a sense of, look, how satisfied are you with the state of your ability to understand what's actually happening within your recruitment operations. So there should be a poll. It's the icon number 3. Go ahead and click on that and give us your verdicts, folks. Okay, as they're doing that, Chloe, sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead with the question.
So Jeremy was talking about data integrity, and then going back to the chat, there was a lot about GIG, or garbage in, garbage out. How can we make sure that we have data integrity in our dashboards when our dashboards pull from our ATS, which is more or less dirty depending on what recruiter has been working that day?
Align the data quality to their end of year bonus. Simple. And that's the same, right, guys? The leadership, they are paid a bonus. What is their bonus related to? What statistics do they need to achieve? You give them dashboards which take the function on a path to achieve that. They get their bonus. They get their promotion. They are happy. And also, when you are employing recruiters into a team, employ data hungry individuals, people who understand the value of data. We now live in a data world. There is too much data, but people need to make sure they understand the data and take care when entering that data. And it's not hard to go into a platform and start to find data anomalies and hold people responsible.
Yeah,
I'd like to
go ahead.
I'd like to echo that it is worth mentioning that it isn't just a matter of individual contributors down here and one massive strategic leader up here who's responsible as well. I find that when I was in Klarna, I managed 21 plus recruiters across 6 locations, and a sort of recruitment lead tier are really excellent resources for you as a leader when it comes to managing data integrity. So if you have a 30-minute data cleansing session every Friday, just a 30 minutes in everyone's calendar, and you work, it can be part of the stretch targets for your leads. Because right now they're leading by example. They're good recruiters who are now mentoring other recruiters, but if they want to learn more about management and they want to move into a head of role in the future, they need to learn how to interpret data. So it lines up with their career goals to help you learn about data as they work with you and help you manage the data quality of their individual contributing recruiters. So that middle management tier is really excellent. And if you're in that role as a lead or a recruitment manager of a small team, really make sure that you are like the data police at the end of every week. It only takes 20 minutes, but we all know that there's always going to be one recruiter in a team that's maybe junior or maybe has come from an environment where this has not been a thing. And it only takes one recruiter who hasn't been organized, who hasn't been really invigilated for maybe a week, maybe a month, to pretty much destroy the median and average values of your ATS, right? So I would say definitely utilize that recruitment, that middle management tier. They can really help you out there.
Quick one on this. I mean, I want to sort of have this image of everyone having a set time. So the team has a set time to do data cleansing. You mentioned that it should be a weekly rhythm. I saw some people on screen, I don't know whether it was you or Jeremy, nodding on that. What does that look like? I mean, basically it means that you go into the ATS and clean it up. I mean, is that what we mean? Or make sure it's all updated? What does it look like at desk?
So the way I've done it, Hung, is you produce your leadership dashboards, right? So you, Hung, as our global head of recruitment, you will get your dashboard. Now, Luke will run a team down here, say with 5 people in it. I will give Luke the same dashboards. He has access to the same dashboards as you, but Luke will then be there to look at the dashboard and see his 5 people. Now, if he's got any data that is incorrect, he should recognize that because it will stand out. If I'm pulling a data set of 5 million applicants, I've got 10% of that data set is incorrect, it's going to get lost. But if you bring that down to an individual recruiter, individual manager level, then they will be able to spot it because it's in a much smaller data set.
Right, I see. Michael's bailed out on us, and so has Luke. Was that by intent? I don't know what's happened there, but they've gone off screen. Does everyone else see this, or just me?
Yeah, no, we lost them.
We lost them.
You there,
okay, they're gone. Doesn't matter. I think they can come back, but I'll invite them back. But they literally got blasted off. But okay, this is actually another perfect little break. Luke, I'll bring you back. I didn't kick you out. But this is actually a really perfect break because we always do this in the middle of every show. Very, very important that Brainfood Live is a conversation starting show, not a conversation ending show. We're actually talking about bottlenecks as it is. Let's not have us being coming off air as a way to stop this conversation, because obviously we need to keep going. So grab your LinkedIn URL, share it in the chat stream. If you're watching this on Crowdcast, if you're watching this on any of these LinkedIn's, whether it's Jeremy's, Chloe's, Rob's, whatever it is, mine, share your LinkedIn in the comment thread there and just connect with everyone else doing the same. We've got hundreds of people watching this, so people should be walking away with at least 50, 60 great connections that care about this topic. And hey, take it offline, go and chat with those people. Let's go ahead and don't depend on us necessarily to do that. Okay, whilst that's happening, I'll try and bring the 2 guys back in. Okay, as we're doing that, we might as well go straight to the how-to part. Jeremy, we've already talked about, okay, you need to get people online early. You need to understand the data literacy properly. Actually, this is basically a bug, because I think both Luke and Michael are on stage, but they're not visible. I don't know how to fix that. As I'm fiddling with this, let's go on to the build aspect, Jeremy. What do I do having got, okay, I've involved the team, I've involved the leadership, I've sorted out the governance, so to say, I know what the rules are, built the taxonomy, agreed all that. What's the next step?
Right, so for me, the first thing is getting them to sign off. We've agreed that we want chocolate ice cream, right? Because there's nothing worse than a few weeks later, someone saying we want chocolate chip ice cream, or the leader turning around and saying, actually, we want strawberry sorbet. So get them to sign off and agree to that. Then it's about platform. What skill set do you have within the business? What platforms do you have available? So when I joined City, I was told by the MD, come on board, you have no budget and you cannot implement any tech, because at City it takes about 3 to 4 years to implement technology because of the security aspects, right? So me just had to look around, figure out, actually, right, we have Power BI. So that's the route that we went down, because other areas in HR, other areas in the business were using Power BI. So it's just about using your initiative. I think that I would always recommend people to build on platforms such as Power BI, Tibco, Click, rather than try and build on a specialist new platform. Because also on those platforms, there's lots of developers out there. You can go and pick up Salesforce developers, Tableau developers, Power BI developers, Power BI visualization experts. The skill set is there if you have the budget. And then the main thing, start small. Start with a small pilot. Start with a dashboard that just says, right, this is what we currently have going on. We have these amount of opened requisitions this year. What remains open, what's been filled, what's been closed, etc. So you're just giving people a very basic understanding of where they are now. Then start to add to it. However, don't start to add complexity until people really understand and buy into what you are doing. If you get that buy-in early on, then it will be a lot easier for you. I don't know, Luke, what do you think?
Yeah, sorry, I went off and back in again. So I don't know if you want to tell Michael to turn it off and on again, but it worked for me. Good old tech. Yeah, I agree with the iterative piece of that. I would say you and me probably coming from like different organizational sizes as well. So it makes sense, but I suppose for a larger organization to get key sponsorship and secure sponsorship and sign off from startup scale up point of view, it's really worthwhile building something with something free like Power BI. As you say, I totally agree with that. Something that's accessible and easy to manage. It's something that you should be able to iterate with for free. So you don't need a developer. You just need to be able to maybe build skill sets around a free tool like Power BI, Looker, Tableau, what have you. But I recommend creating your own mock-ups, even if it's something that works on not even a team level, even an individual level. If you had one recruiter who's listening, who wants to be that person or who wants to learn more about data, have them have a go at that, at just taking their standard recruitment data, either exporting it to a CSV file from an ATS and see if they can clean it up, or it's a little bit ugly, but or tracking it themselves manually. And then once you have a mock-up, you can then go to a leader and say, right, this is how we're going to view recruitment from right now. And it's easier to get sign off in these smaller businesses when you can visualize the benefit. So a mock-up of some description is always really helpful. But that's kind of how I started when I was supporting Seed, was with just an initial sort of chat with the COO. This BI tool is going to help us aggregate data from all these different engagements. We can pull bigger insights and then improve our commercial offerings to customers and so on. So I recommend, starting with something simple, free, something that the recruiters can update and change as they go. And as you say, like, start simple. If you can just focus on one thing, just time to hire. Let's say we're just going to nail time to hire. Right? Do we have the data? Yes. Is it good? No. Okay. Can we clean up the data? No, not with this ATS. Okay. Can we track it manually? Yeah, it doesn't take that long. Okay, cool. Right. Well, that's where we'll start. So you just start thinking through the problem. And as you say, if you try and think about the entire recruitment process, or even bigger than that, like workforce planning, right, from sign off, finance, right the way through the employee life cycle, you'll lose your mind. Whereas if you start with something really simple, I want my team to be able to see time to hire and maybe rejection reasons, something that is really applicable to the individual recruiter and really usable. I don't need to train recruiters to know what to do with rejection reason data, right? If half of their people are leaving because of counter offers, right, do some more candidate experience, do some pre-close and so on. So I'd recommend, yes, use those tools, but maybe start from the bottom up. get some grassroots involvement with your recruiters, and then see what you can do at the team level, because it's really easy to expand it once you've got the data schema how you like it. Really easy to sort of make this one thing work. You can copy paste a spreadsheet. You can make a master sheet. You can do that really easily. But it's very, very difficult if you're in a startup phase to say, I want a sponsor. Sponsor might not exist next year. The goal might not be fit for purpose in a year if they're in hyper growth. The system might not exist in a year because they're in hyper growth. So start with something really, really small and versatile and cheap, and go from there, is what I'd say.
All right, really good, Luke. And actually, I want to just pitch it to the audience really here, here. What is, if there is one metric? I love the idea of just saying, look, what is the one number that you're looking to get better at? That may be your starting point, rather than trying to swallow the entire ocean and getting the entire, business intelligence of the talent intelligence of suite completely sorted. Think about the one thing you want to get better at as a business, as a recruitment function, and then build your analytics on that. And then you can iterate and you can stack on top. What is it for you folks? Let me know in the comments. What is it? Time to hire, cost per hire, rejection rate, reneges. What is it that's causing you that issue? I'd be interested to know what the general pattern of play is there. Michael, you've come, I think you might have missed some of the chat there, but I do believe you were actually listening in. So you might have heard it all in any case. I want to know about your journey, because your journey is very interesting, given the fact you were operational recruiter.
Right.
And Luke and Jeremy both mentioned, it'd be great if you could identify someone within the existing team that could actually spend more time than others on this, because it feels like it's not something that a recruiter who's already massively maxed out that can actually, has headcount responsibilities. So I can imagine that'd be really tough for recruiters to actually get good enough to be able to implement something like this. So tell me about how your journey moved from being an operational recruiter to doing what you're doing now, Michael. How did that emerge? What happened?
So it was quite actually accidental, because initially I was working in the sourcing team, and my manager, Magdalena Maśluk-Meller, suggested me to work more on the reporting end, because there was the need to create more detailed report on weekly basis to understand really the input and output. And then while working more on this part on the technical end, it seemed like there are more appetite on the other teams as well to get more data, to get more insights. So it just organically was developed later on. But having this kind of touch points, I've met also other people at Zalando who had been working in the recruitment and understand more the candidate experience, the onboarding problems. So those metrics are not abstract. We really know what it means, what kind of pain is it for the candidate, for the new hire. And for the last couple of months, I'm more embedded in the team of people products while supporting the people services. So we are dealing with the internal employees, which problems like having a parental leave, getting a reference letter, for example, but also with the candidate, with scheduling the interviews. So all of those issues which are handled by the data, but as you mentioned earlier, dirty data could make a problem. So just to go back to that topic, we might build a different systems to, in a way, get the information about where data is missing, what is the problem, to verify. But it's more about how to understand what to do with them. So again, the metrics are just tools, not the destination. If we don't know where we are going to, it's just, we might have the most beautiful dashboard, but still we are just running in circles. So without having the specified goal with each dashboard, with each stakeholder, it might be hard to get some cleaning with this mess. And in the end, it's just about having the consistency, I believe, because if you would like to get some kind of trends, the forecast, you might get some data that are escaping, like you have anonymization, especially in Germany where I work in. So you cannot have too much historical data to get this, and cleaning won't help you much. You need to do the snapshots every now and then to aggregate the data. And that is the problem about this designing what you really need out of that, what you can do, what you cannot do, and then to make some decisions about how to structure it.
Yeah, very good. I mean, you mentioned a few things that is, again, very interesting, Michael, particularly, how do you connect it with action? I mean, my amateur view of it would be it's all about trends, isn't it? It's like, okay, if you start seeing trends going the wrong way, so for instance, I don't know, close rate of candidates, you used to be up here and it's starting to do this and go down, then okay, the purpose of the dashboard is to let you know that's the case. And then you can do an intervention. So I guess, I mean, the technology should also be able to, I mean, we should actually talk about AI actually. We're going to move into a world where a lot of the workload that we're doing in terms of pulling together data and all the rest of it, we're going to get help with artificial intelligence, aren't we? And do we anticipate a situation where AI, for instance, might be able to give us recommendations to say, you know what, Hong, you know that your offer to conversion ratio in your team is starting to trend down. You want to keep an eye on that, rather than me having to keep eyeballs peeled to a dashboard. Do you see that happening? Is it actually happening? Like, what's happening on vendor side with AI? Is anybody promising anything? And have you seen anything of relevance? Chloe, I'll involve you also in this to answer this question if you have.
I haven't. I've just used Gemini on spreadsheet to help me build stuff.
So for me, there's a lot of vendors out there talking about a black box. We can't show you what's in the black box. And I think 50% have a great black box, 50% don't. So yeah, I think just take it step by step, be cautious. There's lots of people selling CV parsing as AI. I think get the basics right. I haven't actually seen a lot of organizations that are ready for that sort of in-depth. Recruitment is quite a slow-moving conveyor belt, right? So you don't actually need your data updated every single minute. I've seen organizations where they update their data too quickly, and because of that, they miss key trends. So I think it's just keep it simple, stupid. Do the basics well, have high quality data. And last thing I'd add is I'm always very clear. I do not own the quality of the data. It is down to the business to put in the right quality of data and for us to report on that. If that is not clear, then you get but you guys are responsible for it, is rubbish data, rubbish in, rubbish out. So yeah, that's my sort of final point on that.
Yeah, actually, really good. No, one more. We'll just underline that point, Mike. Sorry to interrupt, but it's the data quality. Jeremy is saying actually you got to not own that, because if you do, you're gonna get beat up because you're not the person inputting it or operating it. It's other people. Your job is to deal with it once it's there. But what you can do is provide guidance and training to help people say, look, this is the only way in which we could actually produce that report if you do this, this, and this. And then you could implement what Luke's suggesting at the more local level, that you have sort of these sessions which can improve data, but also I think do a cultural change. If you have a regular iteration of doing it, there will be cultural change as a result. And I forget who it was that mentioned, hiring people, recruiters into team that are inherently more data literate or data informed, data aware, or data affinity, closer to the data, so to say. Michael, you were about to say? Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, sorry. So what I realized actually by studying some additional references is that people prefer the human judgment than algorithms because it's easier to forgive humans. But if we have any control about the output, so not like having the box, and to understand the judgment of the algorithm, is still like easier to get through that decision. So the problem is not the lack of the human face, but more like understanding what is happening there and how it works. But with the generative AI that is having so much confidence, and it's like hallucinating so often that it makes like the perfect world, that everything is so easy, we're getting focused so much on the execution and not so much on the critical thinking. From my work with that, I observed that it's more important actually to ask the probing questions. What do I miss? What is the problem with this data? What is the problem with this question even? So like second guessing ourselves. And if you are familiar with the survivorship bias, so it's not about what you can see, but more like what you are missing, what is not in the picture, which data is not telling the full story, the context. So understanding what might be more on the human side, like whether a call from the hiring manager is missing. This is the reason why the candidates are not accepting the offer, You might not get it directly from the data because you never focused on the capturing such information. But if you would have a call with a candidate, or getting the survey, or investigating in some way, you might figure out, okay, maybe we should start tracking that to understand what problems are having the candidates or the hiring teams and so on. So asking the right questions, critical thinking is essential in using these tools.
I've got to interrupt because we are coming to time, and I want to finish on one thing because I'm sure everyone has had amazing sort of insights drawn from this wonderful conversation, but they'll probably still default back to, okay, like what should I be measuring, guys? So can each of you give us one metric that you think, okay, if I'm doing a dashboard, this needs to be in, and between the five of us, hopefully we can actually come up with something. So Chloe, you go first on that. One metric that you as a talent ops person actually insist on actually seeing.
Wow, I don't know if I can pick just one. Somebody else goes first.
I'll be the first. I'll be the first penguin off the cliff then, just in case there's any sharks. For me, it's a bit of a not a sexy one really, which is just its activity, where it's so easy to measure the qualitative elements of end state data. Anyone can do that, but recruiters can certainly hide in the shadows and don't get the performance management and support that they need if you can't visualize what they're doing week for week and how that translates. The whole point, and we've not discussed it, is data is empowering. We've always been hit over the head with data when we start in recruitment. Data is a tool of empowerment. Same level of effort, make more hires with improvements, but also for the same number of hires, do it in less time. Go pick your kids up from school. You need to be able to measure activity, so volume, and then you've got your conversion. And then from that, you can start taking charge of recruitment for yourself. And it scales all the way up to head of TA. That same principle all the way up to the business, that scales. So for me, quantitative weekly activity is massively valuable.
Yeah, and just to confirm, activity means things like emails out, conversations had, those types of things, right?
How many X gets me Y? How many Y gets me Z? How many Z gets me hires? Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
So your ratios as well from one to the other?
So for me, the key one is diversity of hire. That is what your CEO cares about. Every CEO right now, diversity, right? You start giving that a metric, that is their language.
Yeah, absolutely. So be smart, but also be good. I love that, Jeremy. How about you, Michael? One metric that you always would be disappointed not to actually see in a dashboard, what would that be?
Well, I would like to disappoint you because I would not go for one. There is a saying that when going to the sea, take one chronometer or take three, but never take two. But would always like to have to get independent sources and to cross-check, verify if the other one is providing you the right direction. So just chronograph or compass might be not enough. You might need to have the big picture. So whether it's like input of how many people get into the funnel and how many get hires, but also what's happening in between. You cannot just have one because you might go misdirected out of that.
Yes, very good. And Chloe, your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with all of those. And it's really hard to choose one because it's going to depend on what you need at your level. If you're a recruiter, if you're a middle manager, if you're a TA leader, or if you're senior leadership, you're going to look at any of those differently. And I think you might have your favorite one depending on your level in the organization as well.
Would there be anyone that you want though, Chloe? Come on, give us one thing that you're going to say, you know what, I need to see this measured. If you're running a team and you're thinking, this will help me understand what the heck's going on in my department.
I'm with Luke with the activity because it's the easy one to find and it's the easier one to spot the bottlenecks, and when things go wrong, you see that straight away.
Yeah, and by the way, folks, that's classic stuff. You want to get fit, you want to do anything in terms of progress. It is activity. It's not always outcomes. You got to figure out what you're doing now before you can kind of do any interventions to improve. Okay, we're out of time, folks, so we've got to leave it. I want to thank our marvelous guests. Thank you, Michael Talarek. Thank you, Luke Eaton. Thank you, Jeremy Thornton. Wonderful to have you guys on the screen. Chloe, thank you so much for joining. Also, great to get your interaction. I love the way you interrogated the crowd and interrogated the panelists as well. Thank you everyone for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you do think these shows are valuable, make sure you follow the channel. We do this every Friday. And speaking of Friday, we're back next week. What are we talking about? In fact, let me just check. I think we're talking about programmatic, aren't we? Let me just check real quick. No, we're talking about recruitment automation. So recruitment automation, we're bringing that story back. Recruitment automation tips you can do tomorrow. So we're not talking about big strategies. Like, oh, we're talking about, okay, plug these two things together. It'll make you faster. That's what's going to happen next week. So if you want to get more efficient, make sure you join that show. We're also doing Founders Focus, by the way, midweek is Wednesday. I'll be speaking with Tycho Van Passen, co-founder at Fonk. He's got some amazing conversations to give us. I want to learn about his life journey, but also some really interesting news coming out of his business in the programmatic space. So that's it, folks. Make sure you join all those things. I will see you all next week. Have a good weekend.
Bye, everybody.
Cool. That was all right, wasn't it?
That was great. The conversation was insane. The amount of content in the chat that is valuable is off the charts.
I agree. I need to find a way to get that chat down. I think you can actually scrape it or even export it from Crowdcast. So maybe I export it and get ChatGPT to summarize it or something.
There's
it is super,
amazing
super
stuff and very, very practical things as well. Like some of the insights are pretty practical. Like how do you link your whatever visualization tool you're using? Like some people are using API. I've seen something else come true. So there's loads of very valuable stuff. Maybe
that's another tee up for a second show, because we do kind of analytics maybe too infrequently. So maybe we want to do 1, 2, 3 as a series to say, okay, here's the problems, here's how you do, and do a demo how to do it and stuff like that. That might be actually quite a good exercise to try. Give me an idea for a topic for next week. Anyway, what are you doing this weekend? Anything interesting, Chloe?
Tomorrow is my birthday.
Oh, no way. Happy birthday. Happy birthday, Chloe. That's amazing. I hope you have a wonderful day. Hope the sun keeps shining for you. And yeah, perfect to have it on the weekend. Because then you go out and do what you need. So
fingers crossed we have some sun for the whole weekend.
It's gonna happen. I feel it in my water. Okay, Chloe, I'll let you go. Have a great weekend. I'll see you soon, okay?
You too. Good luck with the jet lag.
It's not jet lag, it's just simply lack of sleep. But anyway, okay, folks, that's it. I'm checking out. I'm going to go to sleep.